Oh, hey, Zach is rewatching the entire Pokemon anime? That actually sounds like a good idea, honestly. I might do it, starting with the original series, obviously. So, let's get started with episode 1. I hate living. Hello everyone, Zoro here, and welcome to the top 20 episodes of Pokemon, the original series. A few months ago, I decided I wanted to rewatch the entirety of the Pokemon anime, and what a fun ride it's been so far. The original series is the exact opposite of what I thought it was going in. When I started, my perception of it was that it was boring, filler, that the characters sucked, the writing was horrible, and many other complaints, but honestly, while it may not be one that is known as a fan favorite, it is, in my opinion, the most unique Pokemon series. It's full of so much charm and personality, and the writing I think is top notch. At least for the English dub, which is what I watched, the comedy was very well done also. Yeah, there's a ton of filler in the series, but a lot of it is actually really good, especially in Kanto and the Orange Islands. Speaking of which, just to clarify for those that don't know yet, the original series shows Ash's journey throughout 3 different regions: Kanto, the Orange Islands, and Johto. Now I know officially Kanto and the Orange Islands are called the beginning, and Johto is called Pokemon the series Gold and Silver, but both of these series contain one long overarching story, and it also includes the same companions other than Tracy briefly being swapped with Brock for a little bit. So in my eyes it counts as one series, and because of that this list was extremely difficult to make because I had to condense 274 episodes and find the 20 best. So believe it or not, even if an episode is at number 20, the lowest spot on the list, it's still among the best episodes in the series, so I really honestly don't have anything bad to say about these. In fact, there are still more I wanted to include, but as the title suggests, this is a top 20, not a top 30. So if an episode you love doesn't end up on the list, it's not because I thought it was bad, but because I personally believe the following 20 episodes were better. Also, once I finish up watching the Advanced Generation, or as they call it in the West, Pokemon the series Ruby and Sapphire, I'm gonna make a top 20 of the episodes in that series, so of course, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. I do want to note that some entries will contain multiple episodes, but that's because those episodes contain a smaller arc. Don't worry, I'm not going to be putting entire leagues into one entry, but this is instead reserved for arcs that are only 2 or 3 episodes long. And one last thing, I know 20 slots may be a lot to watch through, so if you want to skip to the number 10 spot on this list, go to the time right here on your screen. Of course, I don't recommend you do that because we have some amazing entries, so I'm sure you're sick of hearing the intro. Let's get started. Number 20, the Totodile Duel. So I'll admit it, Totodile is actually one of my favorite of Ash's Pokemon, and this is one of the better and more unique Pokemon capture episodes in the series. I really enjoyed Ash and Misty's banter in this. It made for plenty of hilarious moments, and ultimately this made for a very entertaining episode. Basically the plot of this one is that Ash and Misty are both trying to catch Totodile, and eventually they both throw their lure balls at it, but they can't tell who actually caught it, so naturally they battle and the victor gets to keep it. The battle was actually quite good, and in my opinion it redeemed their interrupted gym battle back in Kanto. Congratulations Ash, you finally actually earned the Cerulean Gym Badge. They try to throw us for a loop by having Togepi defeat Pikachu, but then Ash gains the momentum with Chikorita and Bulbasaur. Even though Misty's Poliwag evolved, that wasn't enough to win her the match, and Ash got to keep Totodile. Overall, a pretty solid episode that led to the capture of one of my personal favorite Ash Ketchum Pokemon. Number 19, Hot Matches. Here we have a filler making the list, surprisingly. This episode features what I believe to be Ash's Cyndaquil's first signature victory, and I really think it was pretty memorable. For starters, Ash suffers a sad defeat against this trainer named Mickey, who has a really strong Skarmory. So what does Ash do? He starts training his Cyndaquil, and I think there were a couple episodes where he did hands-on training before this, but I feel like this was executed in the best way this far. Ash literally has Cyndaquil use Tackle on him several times, and I think that's really telling that he's willing to go through physical pain to help his Pokemon get stronger. Then they head down to meet back up with Mickey and the rest of the gang, and they have a rematch battle, and what can I say, this was a pretty epic battle to watch. It was hype, and even when I thought Cyndaquil might lose, it pulled through in the end and Ash won the battle. Number 18, Pikachu's Goodbye. So right off the bat, this episode gives us some foreshadowing. So if you don't know, the song that is currently playing in the background is the song that usually plays at the end of the original series episodes, but instead it plays at the beginning of this one. That was a cool little detail I noticed because goodbye and the ending theme, it just goes together. I also really liked how there were several different Pikachus, small, big, different hairstyles, etc. It just made it feel more real to me. Also, can someone please explain this scene? So later on, Ash is torn. Does he leave Pikachu there or does he force it to leave? Eventually it's found out that Pikachu never wanted to stay because it followed Ash after he left, but this scene was amazing, and I can imagine a lot of people at the time thinking that Ash was actually gonna leave Pikachu. He learned his lesson though. While he did think it was best for Pikachu, he never really knew for sure, so this event taught him that he should always see what his Pokemon wants first before making decisions like that. Number 17. Viva Las Lapras. Now this is a very bittersweet episode because of course we want Ash's Lapras to be happy with its family, but over the course of the Orange Islands arc we've grown attached to it, so it's extremely sad to see it leave. But I actually think this episode was an amazing send-off to Lapras. So basically the summary of this episode is that Lapras's original family encounters Ash and the gang, but they've been getting attacked by pirates, so they're conditioned to not like humans. That makes Lapras depressed because obviously it wants to reunite with its family, but they refuse to see it because it has humans on its back. This leads us to the main plot of the episode, which is Ash and the gang stopping the pirates and saving the Lapras crew. And after they manage to save them, we finally get the sad goodbye. Team Rocket and the pirates get arrested, and Ash finally has to part ways with the Pokemon that helped him so much throughout his Orange Islands journey. I'm not sure if this was something that was just in the dub, but we had a really nice and sentimental montage of all the things that Ash and Lapras have done throughout their time together, and that's when it hit me. This was a really good start to finish arc for a Pokemon. At first it was found and orphaned by the pirates, and with Ash it learned to love and appreciate the humans that aren't bad. It's only right that it helped the rest of its friends learn that as well. It was found separated from its family, and it ends this section of the series being reunited with them. Such a nice arc, and you could tell in the farewell sequence that this Lapras changed Ash's life for the better. Number 16. Bye Bye Butterfree. That's right, another goodbye, and the fact that this of all episodes is at number 16 is truly a testament to the overall quality of episodes on this list. This is an amazing episode in my opinion. It's a pretty iconic one as well, and it really was a nice lesson and a huge turning point in Ash's journey. Like the Lapras episode, this was a very bittersweet goodbye because yes, we want Butterfree to find love, but we want it to stay with Ash as well. So the gang happens across the Season of Love, which is a natural migration event for Butterfrees to find mates, and I think it was cool. It makes the Pokemon world feel more alive. Over the course of the episode though, Ash's Butterfree tries to court the pink Butterfree, but it doesn't like him at first. Then Team Rocket appears and steals all the Butterfree, but unlike a lot of the original series episodes, they don't feel thrown in here. They actually add to the plot. Luckily, Ash's Butterfree isn't caught, which sets up for the climactic part of this episode. I really like the reverse psychology of Ash, Misty, and Brock doing the Team Rocket motto, and it's also in this scene that Butterfree shows this determination. Honestly, he became a hero by breaking the others out of their cage, and that's when the pink Butterfree fell in love with Ash's. The final scene shows that even though Ash is still early on in his journey, he still cares for what his Pokemon wants, and that's shown as he releases his Butterfree so that it can go be in love. Definitely an iconic episode, and it deserves to make it on this list. Number 15. Go west, young Meowth. Now, Meowth is a character I have always been a huge fan of. He's a Pokemon that can talk and he's hilarious. What's there not to like? Well, one thing that kinda sucks is that over the course of the Pokemon anime's long runtime, he really never gets that much development. But this episode was one of the first episodes that actually gave us context, and it answered the age-old question of how did he learn how to talk? It really is a nice backstory, and it adds an amazing emotional element to a kinda bland villain character at this point in the series. We really do see a story of perseverance. This random street Meowth wanted to get the girl, a classic story, and he goes through hell to make her fall in love with him. Imagine if your cat just started walking on two legs and speaking fluent English. Sounds like a ton of dedication and hard work to me, and Meowth did exactly that, and I respect him for it. In the end, the female Meowth, Meowsy, still rejects Meowth, but this led to Meowth joining Team Rocket and bringing together the iconic trio we see today. This whole story takes place in Hollywood, California, which is weird to have real-life locations in Pokemon, but at the time they got away with pretty much everything. In present day though, Meowth was obviously recollecting his time here and telling his story, but he actually meets up with his old Meowth gang again, and surprise surprise, Meowsy has now joined it because she got disowned. Unfortunately, even though Meowth was able to prove himself in a battle with Persian, Meowsy rejected him again, but Team Rocket still loved him. Who needs her, Meowth? You're too good for her anyway. Number 14. Acclaim to Flame. This was a nice little league episode because usually battles during these events are this giant spectacle with a stadium full of hundreds of people, and that still is a thing with the Johto League, but we also get to see something really unique to Johto, which is the league screenings. Now, I really like this because it just adds to the realism of the event in my opinion. Obviously, there'd be so many different trainers challenging the league that it would be extremely difficult to feature every trainer in the stadium and on TV, so this just makes perfect sense within this world. So we see Ash do his first screening battle, and then it just montages through him, but the main reason this episode makes the list is Gary. The purpose of this episode was to bring back Gary and show that he isn't that in-your-face show-off rival that we used to know him as. Instead, Gary seems a lot more level-headed, and that's conveyed perfectly in the scene where he and Ash pretty much had their first heartfelt conversation of the series. And not only did it make me love Gary as a rival even more, it showed us how Gary feels about their friendship, as well as included some nice little foreshadowing for Gary wanting to become a Pokemon professor. Overall, this episode makes it on the list because it was just really nice to see Gary be brought down to earth and actually feel like a human character instead of a stereotypical bully. Number 13. Holy Matrimony. So over the course of the original series, as annoying as they can be at times, I've started to really enjoy the Team Rocket trio's dynamic. I really enjoy Jessie's over-the-top diva personality, and Meowth, like I talked about earlier, has always been a fun character, but James is by far my favorite of the Team Rocket trio, so obviously this episode resonated with me. It was honestly the first real Team Rocket developmental episode that I can remember. We get a look back into James's upper-class childhood and how he's engaged to a girl that looks and sounds like Jessie, but isn't. Kinda sus if you ask me. We also get to see James's old Pokemon Growly, and it was honestly really heartwarming when it saved James from Jezebel. At the end, Jessie and Meowth are led to believe that James is staying behind at the mansion, and they're really sad about it. This shows that even though most of the time we see Team Rocket making jabs and insults at each other, they also love each other like a family, and at the end of the day, even though I loved all the backstory we get for James and the comedic moments in this episode, seeing characters that are usually titled as the annoying villains show actual emotion towards each other was really awesome. Number 12. The Lugia Arch. Now, when I started the 5th season, this arc was one that I was very much looking forward to, and it didn't disappoint. I really liked Butch and Cassidy's involvement in this arc because they were finally a part of something that wasn't filler. It was nice to see our regular Team Rocket trio here, but they didn't do much at the beginning, so I'm glad the others finally got some time to shine. It was also nice to see the triumphant return of Richie in the main anime series. There was some nice bonding between him and Ash, and it was honestly pretty epic to see their tag team battle later on in the arc. Obviously, this whole thing centers around the two Lugias, and it really put it into perspective just how powerful that specific branch of Team Rocket was, considering they were able to capture both of them. Ash and Richie couldn't break the promise they made to the mother Lugia though. They had to save Silver, and with help of pretty much everyone including Jessie, James, and Meowth, they were able to save it. I really appreciated the trio fighting on the side of good, which will always aid the theory that they are secretly good guys on the inside. The two Team Rocket groups get a final send-off for the arc by blasting off together. I guess they really don't hate each other after all. The goodbyes to Silver and Lugia at the end were pretty touching as well, and overall, this arc was just a nice little fun break from the abundant filler in the Johto series. Number 11. Electric Shock Showdown. So, watching through the Indigo League portion of the original series, there weren't too many gym badges that Ash actually earned, but this one was different. It was what I like to say is Ash's first real gym battle. Even Misty points out that he won the first 2 gym badges out of pity. So the battle, Ash loses quite easily, then they go to the Pokemon Center to heal, and that's where a big part of this episode happens that I really love. Ash has a choice, evolve Pikachu for a stronger chance to win, or keep him as a Pikachu. Obviously he's torn, so as Pikachu rests, he leaves the evolution dilemma up to him. Pikachu flicks the Thunderstone away and honestly has a really emotional message about representing all Pikachu everywhere by defeating Raichu. And Brock brings up an interesting strategy to beat Lieutenant Surge that actually works. Ash goes in for a rematch and well, Pikachu kicks Raichu's ass. A classic battle, and it earned Ash
a Thunder Badge.
Thank you. Who's that Pokemon? It's Mewtwo!
Mewtwo.
Number 10. Bulbasaur's Mysterious Garden. So Bulbasaur, in my opinion, is one of Ash's greatest Pokemon of all time, and this episode only made me love it more. Basically, the reason I like this episode is that Ash gets some really huge development because he learns more about respecting his Pokemon's wishes. The whole plot was involving Bulbasaur getting close to evolving, but throughout we see Ash being excited for the evolution and Bulbasaur being pretty mad about it. Fast forward to the evening, a bunch of Bulbasaurs migrate to the mysterious garden where Ash and the gang sneak in, and they see Bulbasaur refusing to evolve. The leader Venusaur gets pretty angry and attempts to attack Bulbasaur, but Ash actually steps in and saves it. I really love this moment because it showed Ash cares about his Pokemon, but after Bulbasaur single-handedly defeated Team Rocket, he was able to prove that unevolved Pokemon can still be powerful. Bulbasaur is a prime example of why I love the Pokemon anime. It's because Pokemon in the anime are more than just numbers, more than base stat totals or their EVs and IVs, and this episode was able to show off this quality perfectly. Number 9, the Lake of Rage arc. That's right, I like this arc just a little bit better than the Lugia arc. Team Rocket is back, and this time they're trying to capture the Red Gyarados, a Pokemon evolved with the radio waves, just like in the games, and they introduced 2 more higher-ups of Team Rocket. Tyson, a more loudmouth and demanding guy, and the calm collected Professor Sebastian. These 2 were much better main villains in my opinion. To me, they just seemed more threatening than Dr. Namba, and the stakes felt higher with them around. Jesse, James, and Meowth were also around, and I don't like their presence in this arc because they actually help out in Team Rocket's evil plan for a portion instead of being the good guys. But honestly, as you can see, that didn't affect my perception of this arc too much. We also saw the introduction of Lance, who ends up telling the gang to stay away from the danger so they go away. Ash can't stand by and watch as the Gyarados is being attacked, so he goes back to help even against Lance's instruction, and I think this was a great moment that showed Ash's drive to help Pokemon. In the end, what pushes this past the Lugia arc for me is that it had much more of an effect on the overall canon of the Pokemon anime, because the events in these 2 episodes have affected the series all the way up into even Pokemon Journeys. Also, we got a nice little appearance by Pryce, which would start off the next mini arc, which was very touching in its own right. Number 8, Riddle Me This and Volcanic Panic. So if the Lieutenant Surge battle was Ash's first real test, this was Exam 2. So in the first episode, Ash loses and it wasn't even close. But aside from that, the whole mantra of Blaine and his hippie disguise was one of the most hilarious moments in the original series, and I really enjoyed the riddle gag. Also, Gary appeared in this episode, and at this point in the series, his appearances were pretty sparse, so it's always good to see him around. At some point, they finally solved the riddle to actually make it into the gym, and Ash's first attempt was pretty much a slaughter. Like I said, it wasn't even close, and this just goes to show how completely outmatched Ash was in this battle. And the icing on the cake is Charizard still won't listen to him. Also, this battle gave us the infamous
Pikachu the Horn!
At the end of the first battle, Ash decided to forfeit the match, which shows he knows when a battle is unwinnable. The next episode, Team Rocket is shown using their trademark attack, be f***ing stupid, and almost makes the volcano erupt, but luckily everyone banded together to fill in the lava cracks, which saved the town. Even Charizard helped out, so it was nice to see him do something good for a change. I thought this scene was hilarious.
I don't know how to thank you, Ash. Perhaps if I give you...
Are you gonna give me my volcano badge now?
I just found it funny how self-aware the writers were that they would include something like this, because it shows Ash has gotten used to getting his badges without winning them. So it was nice to see that Blaine sort of put him in his place. Then it was time for the final battle for the badge, and it was really amazing to see Charizard's first real fight. I really don't know what else to add. It was overall one of the best battles in the entire series, and it debuted Charizard's signature move, Seismic Toss. So even though Ash's Charizard went right back to not listening after this battle, it was still amazing to see what was, at the time, the coolest Pokemon on Ash's team make its debut battle. Number 7, A Way Off, Day Off. So nobody expected this one, especially this high on the list. It's literally just a random filler episode in the middle of the Orange Islands arc, but I absolutely adored this episode. The gang literally just chilled on an island for a day. No major story within the episode other than Team Rocket, and I really liked that. It was a simple slice of life episode that gave us more of an insight into our characters' lives as opposed to throwing us into a one-off storyline filler episode with no implications on the story. It's not the kind of episode that you watch for the action, and it's not an episode most kids are going to care about, but as an adult, I really appreciate appreciate it. Events within the episode such as Snorlax eating everyone's lunch, subtle interactions between characters, even Charizard got some action and he didn't learn to respect Ash yet. They don't add to the story of the anime, but they do give us more of a look into the characters' daily lives and interactions. Another big part about this episode is the heartfelt talk that Ash and Pikachu have on the beach. Everyone's asleep and Ash and Pikachu, partners, best buddies, inseparable friends, reflect on their journey so far and how much farther they have to go. There aren't many episodes like it in the original series, and this one was really enjoyable. It's truly a hidden gem of an episode in my opinion. I've never heard anyone speak of this episode before, and I wish more did. It's such a simple and very laid-back episode, but it really resonated with me. Number 6. Charizard Chills. This is the episode where Charizard finally learns to respect Ash, and it was nice development for the both of them. So at the beginning of the episode, Ash decided to be dumb and use Charizard in a battle even though he knows it won't listen, and his opponent's Poliwrath easily wins. But this leaves Charizard literally frozen solid from the neck to the middle of his tail. This really put it in its place since up until this point it had obviously been kind of a jerk. But even despite Charizard being a major asshole, Ash still cares for it just as much as he does with his other Pokemon. He even stays there overnight warming him up. Even Misty and Tracy help out for a little bit. Eventually Ash's hands start getting burned from Charizard's skin, but he's still determined to bring Charizard back to health. Over the course of the night, you see Ash open up to Charizard, and Charizard slowly starts to understand Ash.
Look, Charizard, I may not be the greatest trainer in the world. Sometimes I don't do the smartest things, and I make lots of mistakes. But I always try to do my best, and I know I'm getting better. I think. We've been together since you were a Charmander, and then when you evolved into Charmeleon. And all I want to do is be good enough for you, so we can battle side by side, as a team.
This scene and the following montage really teared me up a little bit because of how meaningful of a friend this Pokemon is for Ash. At the end, Charizard destroys Team Rocket and they get a very nice rematch against the Poliwrath trainer, and it was honestly just amazing to see Charizard finally respect and listen to Ash. Number 5. As Cold As Pryce and Nice Price Baby. So I teased it in the Lake of Rage entry, but this two-parter mini-arc of sorts is probably the best gym leader related storyline in the entire original series, and that's because of the development of Pryce himself. During his first appearance, we see that he's pretty cold towards Pokemon, get it? And he sees them not as friends, and that's because back during his younger days, he had a Piloswine which he thought abandoned him. That caused him to start having those views towards Pokemon. Luckily, through a turn of events involving Team Rocket, yeah, they actually inadvertently do something good for once. Ash and Pryce get stranded in a ravine. We figure out that Piloswine didn't run away, it got caught in a storm and got frozen within an icicle, and after they unfreeze it, you instantly see Pryce's entire demeanor change. He said it best himself, when he reunited with Piloswine, his passion returned to him. This change led to what I think is the best gym battle in the Johto series because of the context behind it, as well as the loads of strategy from both Ash and Pryce. And at the end of the gym battle, Pryce literally throws in the towel because he recognized his Piloswine had given its all. I realize this is an unpopular choice, but this was the best gym battle of the original series for me because not only was the battle great, but the context of it was amazing as well. Number 4. Pokemon, I Choose You! Obviously, this episode had to make it into the top 4. It's the first. This episode is what got a lot of people into Pokemon, and while it wasn't my first, it was really nostalgic to watch this and realize how much Ash has changed since. This episode is probably the perfect introduction to the series. Of course, we have Ash, we're introduced to his mom, Professor Oak Gary, and of course Misty briefly appears as well. Ash gets Pikachu, and we all remember him hating Ash at the beginning, but Ash is persistent, showing how much he cares for this Pokemon that he just got. Throughout the episode, Pikachu realizes how much Ash cares for him leading up to the iconic moment. Seeing the lengths Ash would go was amazing, and even though, like I said, he just met Pikachu, he showed real emotion when he was injured. Then Pikachu stopped the Spearows, giving us what is probably the most recognizable moment in Pokemon anime history. It's still such an amazingly beautiful scene to this day, and in Ash and Pikachu's eyes, it's such a big event that they remember it all the time. So not only did this episode cement the Ash and Pikachu duo, but it introduced us to the series in such a unique way that it deserves to be this high on the list. Number 3. The Ties That Bind and Can't Beat the Heat. These two episodes contain what I believe to be the absolute best battle in the original series. Ash and Gary are rivals, they have been since they were kids, and Ash apparently never beat Gary in anything. So this match was obviously extremely important for the both of them. The build up in the first episode was really great. I also loved how Professor Oak and Delia came to watch live. This specific scene was really meaningful too.
Professor Oak, Mom, we'll see you later.
Ash, wait!
Huh?
I just wanted you to know that I think you're a wonderful Pokemon trainer, and I'm proud of all your hard work and training. I'm sure you'll make me the proudest mom there could be.
I'll do my best.
Then the match begins, and honestly, when this episode first came out, I probably would have seen Ash losing. Gary was easily handling him at the beginning, taking out 3 of Ash's Pokemon, but this battle shifted sides back and forth. I especially like the scene where Ash says that his Pokemon can fight at a disadvantage, and that's a really great message in my opinion. So Gary was at the advantage numerous times during this battle, but Ash brought it back every single time until the end, where it seemed like Gary's Blastoise might defeat Ash's Charizard. Our boy used one of his most unique and random strategies and literally melted the battlefield.
What kind of crazy, what a novel and unique strategy.
This is the ultimate original series matchup. Ash versus Gary, Charizard versus Blastoise, and when it's over and Ash comes out on top, he's speechless. Who wouldn't it be? His first time beating his biggest rival. At the end, we see Gary finally revealing his respect and admiration for Ash. I loved this rivalry, I loved this battle, and this was pretty much the perfect climax to one of the best rival arcs in the entire anime. Number 2. Charizard's Burning Ambitions. There's a ton to love about this episode, so I'll start from the beginning. There's some good foreshadowing here. From Team Rocket talking about how they always lose to Charizard, or Misty and Brock talking about how Ash uses Charizard too much, I feel like it was obvious he was going to be left to train by the end of the episode. And man, what a sad sight it was to see the strongest of Ash's Pokemon getting easily destroyed by other Charizards. Also, I love the parallels between their personalities. No matter how much proof was in front of them, they were prepared to challenge the next Charizard, and after getting kicked out by Liza and Charla, he reflects. Charizard, a fire-type Pokemon, sits in a pond outside of the gates for the entire night. Ash and Charizard have a talk during that time, and it was very level-headed and down to earth. It really showed that Ash cares for Charizard, and it was amazing to see how far their bond had come since it evolved. I also really loved how Team Rocket was there with Meowth to translate Charizard's thoughts, and they threw pebbles at him to keep him awake throughout the night. It showed that deep down, even though Team Rocket is supposed to be evil, they're on Ash's side secretly. And in the morning, Ash realizes he has to leave Charizard, and Ash is a kid at this point. He doesn't react well, he gets vulnerable, and it's sad. But Charizard knows that Ash means it all with good intentions, and Pikachu knows as well. This interaction tells us that.
Maybe I'll see you around sometime.
Ash!
This was an extremely sad episode, and it might just be the saddest farewell to a Pokemon in the entire Pokemon anime. Real quick before we get to number 1, I just want to go through some honorable mentions. These episodes barely missed the top 20 and actually were on it before I really thought about things for a while. The first few are Bulbasaur and the Hidden Village, Charmander the Stray Pokemon, and Here Comes the Squirtle Squad. They're all here because they brought together the iconic gang of 4, Charmander, Squirtle, Bulbasaur, and Pikachu. Dig Those Diglett is a nice episode. Not only did it add to the Ash and Gary rivalry early on, it also gave us some very light, probably unintentional foreshadowing on Gary eventually wanting to become a professor. Also, Team Rocket development was nice with Koffing and Ekans evolving. A Friend Indeed, Friend and Foe alike, and Friends Till the End are pretty much a mini arc within the overall Indigo League arc. Richie was a nice character. I really liked him and Ash bonding, and even though Richie beat him in the end, I felt like it was a great development moment for Ash. The reason these didn't make the top 20 is because Team Rocket was pretty annoying in this, but they did deliver one of the funniest jokes in the entire Pokemon anime.
Thunderbolt attack!
Turn attack!
Misty Meets Her Match is a pretty infamous episode in the world of Pokeshipping. It has a super nice little realization moment for Misty, and I really liked how she realized at the end how much she cares for Ash. Even if it wasn't romantically, I still think it was a nice message of loyal platonic friendship. The last honorable mention is Johto Photo Finish. It was just an amazing battle, and honestly, it's probably the second best battle in the original series. Seeing these two amazing fire-type Pokemon battle it out to the end was awesome, and it was actually a close battle, unlike the L he took in the Indigo League. He still lost though, so I didn't really care much to add it to the top 20. Plus, even though Harrison wasn't a bad character, I'm still not a fan of them introducing characters at the league just to beat Ash. And with all of those out of the way, let's move on to number 1. Number 1, Gotta Catch You Later. Throughout watching the original series, you notice the charm it has. The characters, the comedy, the writing, everything has such a unique feeling, and this ties every unique quality of this era of the Pokemon anime into one 22-minute episode. And it's packed, but it doesn't feel that way. Every main character also appears. Team Rocket has their shenanigans, Tracy, Professor Oak, Delia, even Gary are all here. I liked how Ash's inspiration to only take Pikachu to Hoenn stemmed from Gary doing the same, and seeing Ho-Oh make a reappearance to reinvigorate Ash was really special. Obviously, the most memorable part of this episode was Ash, Brock, and Misty splitting up. Misty had to go run the Cerulean Gym, and Brock had some stuff to take care of back home. During this walk, I really got sad, because these three people have been through so much, and they recognized it too.
Togepi, it was a coincidence that you and I met too.
Ours wasn't coincidence. I don't believe it could be just a coincidence that I met you out of all people.
What do you mean, Ash?
I guess what I mean is, even though that happened, I think that we were meant to meet and become friends.
Me too. We've been through so much together on our travels, I'd say we're best friends now.
You mean it, Brock? We're really best?
Eventually the paths split and they have to separate. Brock finally reveals he has to leave, and this scene had a thoughtful detail that started to make me cry. A lot, honestly.
How could you forget something like that?
I'm not sure exactly.
Maybe because you didn't want to leave?
Probably.
Such a little detail, but it gets a real message across, and even though we eventually would see Brock return a few episodes into Hoenn, it doesn't change the scene for me. So Brock and Misty give Ash a nice little lunchbox with silverware as a gift, and it comes back into play later when Team Rocket attempts to take Pikachu again. As weird as it was to see Ash climb out of the hole with a fork and a spoon, this scene was extremely thoughtful in my opinion. It showed that Ash will never forget the memories he made throughout the original series, and that all of those experiences will stay with him forever. So yeah, it's pretty predictable to see this episode at number 1, but like I said, it really does encompass pretty much everything great about the original series. It was the perfect send-off to the series of Pokemon that started it all, and that's why I chose it to be number 1. Thank you for watching. Honestly, rewatching the original series was basically a condensed version of years of my childhood, and it's been really fun so far to reconnect and relive my early years of being a Pokemon fan. Like I said in the intro, the original series is probably the most unique and different series because of the fact that it was the first. It really was the series that shaped the entire future of the Pokemon anime, and hundreds, even 1,000 episodes into the series, we're still seeing the impact it had on the show and the characters as a whole. I'm honestly gonna miss rewatching this series every night, but I'm excited to start with the advanced generation and give you guys my top 20 in the coming months. So once again, make sure to like this video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you want to, and since you made it this far in the video, here's a little something special.